In a world often filled with danger and uncertainty, there are heroes in uniforms that come in all shapes and sizes. One such hero was a military working dog named Max. With sleek fur that glistened under the sun and a determined gaze that could pierce through the toughest challenges, Max was not just a dog. He was a partner, a protector, and a friend to his handler, Sergeant Jake Thompson. Max and Jake had been through countless missions together. From treacherous terrains to the patrolling of the base, their bond grew stronger with each step they took side by side. They learned to trust each other implicitly. While Jake relied on Max's nose to sniff out hidden dangers, Max depended on Jake's strength and guidance. Whether they were searching for missing soldiers or detecting explosives, they moved in perfect harmony, intuitively understanding one another's needs without needing words. Jake had joined the military with dreams of serving his country and protecting those in need. Little did he know that his greatest ally would come from the four-legged variety. Max had been trained rigorously, showcasing his skills in obedience, agility, and scent detection. Each day, they would work together as a team, reveling in their shared successes while creating memories that would last a lifetime. On the battlefield, their bravery shone brightly. During one mission that would forever be etched in Jake's mind, they encountered an ambush that rattled even the most hardened soldiers. As bullets flew overhead, Max dashed forward with unwavering courage, leading Jake to safety while simultaneously warning him of unseen threats ahead. That day, they bonded even tighter, realizing just how much their lives depended on each other. But bravery often comes with a price. During one fateful deployment, Max was injured as they maneuvered through hostile territory. An explosion echoed around them, throwing debris into the air like confetti in a chaotic celebration. In moments, everything shifted. Jake rushed to Max's side, cradling him gently as anxiety washed over him like cold water. The battlefield faded into the background as Jake focused solely on his injured partner. It was then he realized just how much Max meant to him. More than just a working dog, he was family. After Max received emergency medical care and returned to base, the doctors delivered devastating news. He was declared unfit for service due to the extent of his injuries. The decision came quickly. Following standard protocol meant that Max would be removed from the unit and scheduled for euthanasia, a cruel reality for both soldier and dog. Jake's heart shattered into pieces. The thought of losing Max was unbearable. They had saved each other so many times. How could anyone expect him to simply move on? But that was what he was told to do, move on, carry out orders without looking back, forgetting about the bond that had been forged through fire and loss. Feeling helpless yet defiant, Jake made a choice. Instead of accepting this heart-wrenching fate for Max, he decided to fight for him. He began filing formal appeals every week, letters pouring out of his heart filled with memories of their time together, and his plea for reconsideration concerning Max's life. Week after week passed without any response. The silence stung like a slap across his face, a reminder of how bureaucratic systems often overshadow genuine connections. 47 weeks came and went. Frustrations built up within Jake like a bubbling volcano ready to erupt at any moment. The lack of acknowledgement felt like a betrayal. How could they disregard the loyalty and bravery displayed by his furry partner? Week after week turned into an endless cycle of waiting, a waiting that felt as heavy as lead weights pressing down on his heart. But then came week 48, a turning point unexpected yet life-changing. At last, someone within the military chain took notice of his appeal. It wasn't just lost paperwork anymore. It came alive when they read what Jake wrote. To everyone's astonishment, it turned out that Max was still alive. In an ironic twist of fate, the facility had overlooked the protocol window for his euthanasia. With renewed hope swelling within him like never before, Jake quickly packed what little he needed for a long journey ahead. He couldn't waste any more time. 14 hours lay ahead of him as he drove straight toward the kennel where Max awaited him. Upon arrival at the facility, exhaustion weighed heavily on him, but hope propelled him forward as he rushed inside. Finally facing the truth he longed for, seeing Max again, he stepped into the back kennel where his beloved companion was being kept. The sight pierced through him like an arrow. There sat Max, thin and quiet in the dim light of the spacious room. His heart pounded as he took in every detail. This once lively dog now appeared reserved and subdued under gentle fluorescent lights. Then something incredible happened. As if sensing Jake's presence from afar or recalling their time spent together through sheer instinct alone, Max stood up slowly, letting out a gentle but firm whine that echoed like music through Jake's soul. It didn't matter how frail Max looked at that moment. What mattered most was that their bond remained unbroken even amidst daunting odds. Nothing could diminish what they had fought through together on this journey called life. The sun hung high in the sky, casting a harsh light over the rugged terrain. Jake and Max were on another mission, carefully making their way through a narrow valley that was known for its hidden dangers. The air was thick with tension, and both soldier and dog moved in sync, their senses heightened as they navigated the precarious landscape. They scanned for threats and relied on each other's instincts. Every rustle of leaves and distant sound was a potential warning. As they advanced cautiously, Jake's heart raced with a mix of adrenaline and fear. He trusted Max completely, knowing that his four-legged partner had been trained to detect even the faintest hints of danger. Suddenly, out of nowhere, an explosion erupted nearby, shaking the ground beneath them and sending debris flying in all directions. The sound was deafening, like thunder crashing down from the heavens. In that instant, chaos reigned. Jake instinctively shielded Max with his body as dust and smoke enveloped them. He could feel the heat from the blast on his skin, but his concern was solely for Max. As the shock faded, Jake realized he was still standing, but Max was not beside him. Panic surged through him as he called out his partner's name, searching frantically amidst the rubble. "Max! Max!" he shouted, his voice strained with desperation. Then he spotted him. Max lay motionless just a few feet away. A wave of dread washed over Jake as he rushed to Max's side. He knelt beside him, noticing the blood seeping from a wound on Max's shoulder. The sight shook him to his core. This was more than just an injury. It was a harsh reminder of the cost of their duty. "Stay with me, buddy," Jake urged, gently cradling Max's head in his hands. The dog's eyes were glazed over, but he managed to give a faint whimper. It tore at Jake's heart to see his brave companion in such pain. After assessing the injury, Jake made a split-second decision to get Max out of harm's way. He scooped up the dog, careful not to jostle him too much, and began to make his way back to safety while keeping a keen watch for any additional threats. His instincts kicked in as he relied on every ounce of training he had received in the military. Once they reached their unit, medics quickly took over. They worked urgently to stabilize Max before transporting him to a nearby medical facility. Jake felt helpless as he watched them whisk away his best friend. It was like losing a part of himself. In that moment, all he could do was pray for Max's recovery. Days turned into weeks while Max remained under close observation. But then came the devastating news. The medical team had assessed Max's injuries and deemed him unfit for service. It felt unreal. How could they take away the one thing that had saved his life time and again? The thought of not having Max by his side overwhelmed Jake with sadness. As protocol dictated, they scheduled Max for euthanasia, a heart-wrenching decision grounded in what they deemed necessary for an injured animal. To many in the military, this was standard procedure. However, to Jake, it felt like a betrayal of everything they had fought through together. He couldn't comprehend how they could simply move on and decide that Max's life wasn't worth saving after all they had experienced together in the line of duty. These thoughts spiraled in Jake's mind as he paced around his quarters, battling with feelings of anger and helplessness. It seemed impossible that after everything, after bravery displayed in combat, Max could be discarded like a broken tool. Yet there was no time to waste wallowing in despair. Instead of accepting this fate, Jake resolved to fight for his partner's life. He began writing formal appeals each week, pouring his heart into every letter as he detailed their journey together, the missions that had tested them beyond limits, and the bond forged through shared perils. Each letter became more than just an appeal, it became a testament to their loyalty to one another. Weeks passed without response as bureaucracy loomed large like an unyielding wall. Each week felt heavier than the last. 47 weeks dragged on as hope flickered like a dying candle in the wind. Jake felt frustration bubbling inside him, a feeling akin to rage, at how easily others dismissed what he held so dearly. But deep down, he clung to hope because hope is a powerful thing. It breathes life into despair. Even through silence and rejection, every appeal kept alive the dream that one day someone would understand their story and recognize Max's value beyond mere protocol. As their time apart stretched on endlessly, Jake never wavered in his commitment to save Max. He knew there had to be something more than decisions made within sterile offices far removed from the battlefield, a belief rooted in love forged through fire and sacrifice. Then came week 48, a twist of fate that would change everything, for it was then that someone within the chain finally read one of his passionate letters, awakening hope once more in the midst of darkness. They would discover that Max had remained alive against all odds due to an oversight with protocol. With renewed determination surging through him, Jake prepared for what would be the most significant journey of his life, a journey back to the bond they both cherished dearly and never lost sight of despite overwhelming odds. In military operations, protocol is designed to guide decision-making in the most challenging situations. The regulations surrounding military working dogs, particularly when it comes to their health and service limits, are strict but necessary for operational efficiency and safety. After an injury, these protocols include assessing whether a dog can continue to serve effectively or should be retired to ensure the safety of soldiers in the field. When Max was declared unfit for service due to his severe injury, the diagnosis initiated a sequence of actions laid out by military protocol. It was a heartbreaking reality, but one that followed a chain of command and policy designed to uphold standards of readiness. With his injury deemed critical, Max's future became a somber reflection of the cold calculus often faced in operations: the need for every unit member, human or canine, to be capable of performing assigned duties without reservation. The decision to euthanize an injured military animal is not taken lightly. However, according to regulation, it is viewed as an option meant to prevent unnecessary suffering when a dog cannot function as intended. Max's situation was bleak. The injuries he sustained were severe enough that medical officers recommended he be removed from active duty and scheduled for euthanasia. This decision stemmed from concerns over both his quality of life and the principle that any dog unable to perform effectively could pose a risk during missions. For Jake, hearing the news felt like a punch to the gut. He couldn't fathom how they could choose this path for Max after all they had been through together, the close calls, shared triumphs, and the fierce loyalty between handler and dog. To him, Max wasn't just a working dog, he was an irreplaceable partner who had risked his life time and again for their shared cause. The minimum standard of care and respect he believed Max deserved felt completely disregarded by cold bureaucratic rules. As part of the standard procedure, once Max was determined unfit for service, Jake was reassigned to another unit. This separation only compounded his grief. He understood that military protocols aimed to maintain operational integrity, but he felt caught in a whirlwind of sterile decisions made without acknowledgement of their bond. Being told to stay focused and move on seemed impossible when every moment apart felt like a personal betrayal. With his heart heavy yet determined, Jake decided not to follow what appeared to be expected behavior within military ranks. Rather than succumbing to bureaucracy's relentless grip, he resolved to advocate fiercely for Max. Each week began with him pouring out his emotions into written appeals, a heartfelt recounting of all they'd endured together, and the life still worth fighting for in Max. Jake knew every letter might very well go unread or dismissed as another routine procedural step in an impersonal system that often overlooks individual stories. His frustration grew as weeks turned into months with no response. 47 weeks passed like an eternity while hope hung by a thread. Yet, even during this wait, Jake remained committed because he understood that true loyalty does not falter even in adversity. He recalled moments spent on missions that illustrated their unbreakable bond, when Max had saved him from ambushes or alerted him to lurking dangers. In those quiet introspections between letters, Jake felt renewed determination grow within him. He wouldn't let Max be forgotten like some casualty of war set aside because it was considered easier than finding solutions. One may wonder how such strict protocols could allow room for compassion or reconsideration. Military structures prioritize efficiency while minimizing risks on all fronts. But compassion is also vital within strong units forged through trust on challenging missions. There must be space for understanding amidst necessity, human and animal lives intertwined in ways beyond explanation. Then came the turn that changed everything. Someone finally took notice of Jake's pleas among numerous documents stacked high within bureaucratic offices. A twist braided through fire taken by those who recognized there was something exceptional about their story. A spark ignited when they discovered that due protocols had not been followed as expected. Max remained alive, a beacon of hope against despair. Suddenly, behind the rigid walls of policy emerged an opportunity. Someone would hear Jake's voice in the sea of silence that cloaked their hearts. Fueled by newfound energy following this encouraging revelation, Jake prepared himself mentally and physically for what lay ahead, a 14-hour journey back to where Max awaited him, thin but alive, with nothing but faith guiding him forward toward an emotional reunion that would define how love persists even through distressing obstacles. This chapter revealed not just one soldier's fight but reflected upon a system grappling with adaptations needed as they navigate loyalty amid suffocating formalities, all underscored by reminders that love transcends mere order and bonds forged between honorable companions, refuse relinquishing meaning easily folded away once challenged by fate itself. Sergeant Jake Thompson was a soldier through and through, known for his courage and commitment on the battlefield. But beneath the tough exterior lay a heart full of love for his canine partner, Max. Jake often found himself smiling when he thought about their adventures together, where every moment shared had tightened their bond as if it were forged in steel. Jake had joined the military with dreams of serving his country, but little did he know that the most profound relationship he would develop wouldn't be with another soldier but with a four-legged friend. Max was more than just a working dog. He was Jake's shadow, confidant, and protector. They had trained intensely together, nurturing their instincts to work seamlessly as a team, building an unbreakable trust over time. After the blast that injured Max during their last mission, everything changed in an instant. The urgency of combat quickly faded into cruel reality when medical personnel assessed Max's situation and declared him unfit for service. The words hung heavily in the air as they explained that according to protocol, Max would be scheduled for euthanasia. In that moment, Jake felt as if he had been swept into a whirlwind of despair. How could they even consider such an option for his loyal companion? Once reassigned to another unit, Jake struggled to focus on his duties. Each day felt like gloomy fog settling around him. The camaraderie of fellow soldiers faded into background noise as thoughts of Max occupied his mind. The separation only intensified the emotional turmoil inside him. Being told repeatedly to move on felt utterly impossible when every room echoed with memories of laughter and heroics shared with his beloved dog. Driven by desperation and a fierce commitment to rescue Max from such a grim fate, Jake began crafting weekly appeals. With each typed letter, he poured out every ounce of emotion, his fears about losing Max blended with every joyous moment they had spent together in combat or out on training exercises. His writing transformed into a testament of devotion and resilience fueled by unwavering loyalty. Weeks passed without any acknowledgement from those who had made the decision about Max's life. Each week dragged painfully as those letters became like lifeboats tossed into an unforgiving ocean of silence, a relentless weight that felt like an eternity to Jake. During this time, frustration coiled tightly inside him. It was bound up along with heartbreak and determination not to let bureaucracy extinguish the light that was Max. Jake often found solace in quiet reflection while recalling moments that encapsulated their partnership. A time when Max barked warning signals to alert him before an ambush, or another instance when they worked together symbiotically during training exercises. Those memories acted as driving forces fueling his desire to fight against an immobilizing system unwilling to acknowledge their bond. With each letter sent off into potential oblivion came glimpses of hope, and occasionally doubts invaded his mind. What if his pleas fell on deaf ears? What if no one cared enough to understand? Yet within these burrowing anxieties laughed an ember dedicated solely toward doing right by Max, a gently flickering flame sparking resolve amid crashing waves. In these weeks stretched thin across harrowing days, Jake sought inspiration from other military handlers he'd met over his years. Stories exchanged murmured through halls painted in olive-drab uniforms where bonds departed coalesced warmth, even through separation pains. Even though many soldiers prioritized action over emotional ties amidst battlefield demands, their stories held reverence, underscoring kindness extended toward animals risking everything alongside them. Then came week 48, when change materialized unexpectedly within sterile walls filled with paperwork. Someone finally read one of Jake's persistent letters. After all this time waiting amid foggy uncertainties shrouding simple acts meant persistence sometimes yields rewarding triumphs against apparently unbeatable odds. It dawned anew through cracks, letting fresh air filter back in. The recognition ignited within him propelled hopes ever higher as it introduced resolution. Something deep inside told him, maybe there is still hope left after all. A belief planted roots amid frustrating silence while muscles tensed at uncertainty loosed around emerging resolve now pitting itself resolutely against dreary predictions offered forth days long past. The outcome remained unknown yet resided gleefully intertwined along paths yet trodden beside those who refused silent battles laid waste beneath outer layers bound tight among devastating formalities. Thus began preparation toward redemption. It wasn't just about saving Max anymore but proving tenacity could intersect lives once doubted, snuffing lights trying persistently against surrendering after endless storms prevail, surrounded unyielding attachments recognized beautifully through real connections forged under duress, shared beyond expectations, lasting far longer than impermanent protocols set aside, remained rendered pitiless beyond rigid structuring core, dedicated frustration tied fast. Between pledging service amid trials, rendering promises consistent, burning brightly lit paths lined toward reunion, long yearned ongoing commitment manifest, evidenced fiercely alive, nonetheless unbroken, resilient beating hearts echoing truths observed, whispering hope cascaded freely while fighting still. Deeper battles on behalf deserving souls alike, steadfast compassion united though initiating, circled within regime long turned desolate, left forgotten yet never lost, sadly forgotten, caught midst overwhelming darkness, refused acceptance easily quelled. Souls intertwined, bound, stayed free, hope clasped hands forever held, steadfast alliance abiding wherein love blatantly leaped across barriers enshrined between hearts tethered, once softly hopeful, glowing brightly marked lives, intention crying out. Blazing truths revealed, living journeys encountered upon undiscovered landscapes strewn far, several stars ahead, culminating brilliant bonds awaiting victories defined, challenge passionately overcome, emerging destinies assured, aptly depicted among savored stories, safeguarding legacies eternally cherish. Stamp bright hopes igniting spark, emboldened soul towards mean destined establishments, carrying whispers heralding unwavering promise, waiting bask triumph, transgressed chasing wild dreams, tying remembrances, burgeoning faith revitalized, spectacular whilst shining, undeterred beating carried echoes belonging, asserting joy long seeking, transcending fears, intertwining undulating vast realms, seeking both futures woven, remark seldom yet illuminating tenets ringing ever faithful, enduring. Despite carved destiny stretching forever onward, enlivened, clarifying why, engaging deeply essential before hands emerged, fervent grasp revealed friendships, coloring kindred nurtured, granting glimpses, beautiful awakening wisdom, celebrating triumph, bounding endless paths, paved strength, sharing honor, redeem our it turns, give life timeless legacy, lived hand in hand, grace reverberating, kindness harbored, silently woven tales leading earthly battles, pushed advances, reclaim our precious voices, lifted peace, lovingly welcome, dawning expansive horizons, united, cycling, journeyed, exploring fate, neighbors, cherished lives, wonder emboldened, kept close, holding legacies, grace encapsulating, fuller understanding earned. Thus began preparation toward redemption. It wasn't just about saving Max anymore but proving tenacity could intersect lives once doubted, snuffing lights trying persistently against surrendering after endless storms prevail, surrounded unyielding attachments recognized beautifully through real connections forged under duress, shared beyond expectations lasting far longer than impermanent protocols set aside, remained rendered pitiless beyond rigid structuring core, dedicated frustration tied fast. Between pledging service amid trials, rendering promises consistent, burning brightly lit paths lined toward reunion, long yearned ongoing commitment manifest, evidenced fiercely alive, nonetheless unbroken, resilient beating hearts echoing truths observed, whispering hope cascaded freely while fighting still. Deeper battles on behalf deserving souls alike, steadfast compassion united though initiating circled within regime long turned desolate left forgotten yet never lost sadly forgotten caught midst overwhelming darkness refused acceptance easily quelled. Souls intertwined bound stayed free hope clasped hands forever held steadfast alliance abiding wherein love blatantly leaped across barriers enshrined between hearts tethered once softly hopeful glowing brightly marked lives intention crying out. Blazing truths revealed living journeys encountered upon undiscovered landscapes strewn far several stars ahead culminating brilliant bonds awaiting victories defined challenge passionately overcome emerging destinies assured aptly depicted among savored stories safeguarding legacies eternally cherish. Ed stamp bright hopes igniting spark emboldened soul towards mean destined establishments carrying whispers heralding unwavering promise waiting bask triumph transgressed chasing wild dreams tying remembrances burgeoning faith revitalized spectacular whilst shining undeterred beating carried echoes belonging asserting joy long seeking transcending fears intertwining undulating vast realms seeking both futures woven remark seldom yet illuminating tenets ringing ever faithful enduring. Despite carved destiny stretching forever onward enlivened clarifying why engaging deeply essential before hands emerged fervent grasp revealed friendships coloring kindred nurtured granting glimpses beautiful awakening wisdom celebrating triumph bounding endless paths paved strength sharing honor redeem our it turns give life timeless legacy lived hand in hand grace reverberating kindness harbored silently woven tales leading earthly battles pushed advances reclaim our precious voices lifted peace lovingly welcome dawning expansive horizons united cycling journeyed exploring fate neighbors cherished lives wonder emboldened kept close holding legacies grace encapsulating fuller understanding earned. As the weeks turned into months, the weight of Jake's despair grew heavier. Each Sunday night became a ritual. A somber ceremony of sorts, where he would sit at his desk, staring out the window as the shadows lengthened. He would take a deep breath, trying to summon the right words as he began to type yet another appeal for Max's life. With every letter he crafted, Jake poured his heart into the words, recounting their shared history and the unbreakable bond they had formed over countless missions. But as the 47th week came and went without any acknowledgement from the military bureaucracy, Jake felt a deepening sense of hopelessness. He often found himself questioning whether anyone even bothered to read his letters. Each envelope felt like a message cast adrift in an ocean of indifference, a plea for help swallowed by the vast machinery of a system that seemed more concerned with protocols than with compassion. The frustration gnawed at him relentlessly. He recalled the faces of other soldiers who had lost their working dogs, veterans who had spoken about the heartache of such losses. They all seemed to understand that these animals were not merely tools or assets. They were living beings who had fought beside them, shared their fears, and offered comfort in times of chaos. Yet here he was, facing an uphill battle against a faceless system that viewed Max as just another line item in an endless ledger. Days blurred together in a haze of anxiety and despair. Each morning brought the same heavy heart as Jake donned his uniform, feeling the weight of his reassignment pressing down on him. The camaraderie he once enjoyed with fellow soldiers now felt hollow. Conversations turned to mundane topics while Jake's thoughts drifted back to Max, his loyal companion who was now suffering alone in a kennel somewhere, far from the bond they had nurtured together. Jake had tried to stay busy, immersing himself in training exercises and duties assigned to him in his new unit. But every time he saw another soldier with their dog, it brought fresh pangs of longing and guilt. He couldn't shake the feeling that he should be doing more for Max. After all, they had promised to protect each other on the battlefield. How could he let bureaucracy dictate Max's fate? With no response to his appeals, despair began to seep into every corner of Jake's being. The hours spent waiting for news felt like an eternity. Each tick of the clock echoed painfully in his mind. He would often sit in silence, staring at the wall, envisioning what Max must be going through, alone and uncertain about what lay ahead. Would he know that Jake was fighting for him? Did he sense that his partner was out there somewhere, desperately trying to save him from a grim fate? As days turned into weeks, Jake found comfort only in memories, flashes of joy shared during training sessions or quiet moments spent together after missions. Those glimmers of happiness became both balm and burden. They reminded him of what he was fighting for, but also of what he could lose if no one acknowledged his pleas. The frustration swelled within him like a storm about to break. There were times when he felt tempted to give up, to accept that perhaps this was simply how things were meant to be. But deep down, something stirred inside him, a flicker of hope fueled by love and loyalty that refused to be extinguished. He could not abandon Max, not when they had faced so much together. Jake sought solace in conversations with other handlers who had experienced similar losses. They shared stories of their beloved dogs, recounting how these animals had saved their lives on multiple occasions and how their absence left gaping holes in their hearts. These discussions only served to reinforce Jake's resolve. He realized that he was not alone in this struggle. Despite the frustrations surrounding him, there were small moments of clarity where he discovered renewed strength. He began documenting everything, the appeals he had written, the memories of Max, and even his feelings about the military system. Writing became a form of therapy. It allowed him to channel his emotions into something tangible, keeping hope alive even amid overwhelming darkness. Then came week 48, a turning point that felt almost surreal after so long waiting in silence. One afternoon, while sitting at his desk lost in thought, an unexpected phone call shattered the stillness. It was a voice from within the military chain, a person who had finally picked up one of his letters and taken notice of Max's plight. The news hit Jake like a bolt of lightning. Max was still alive. The facility had missed the protocol window for euthanasia. Tears streamed down Jake's face as relief washed over him. Against all odds, his determination had paid off. Fueled by newfound hope, Jake prepared for what would be an arduous 14-hour drive back to where Max awaited him. He knew they would soon be reunited. His partner would once again be by his side. As he drove through nightfall, excitement replaced despair. Every mile brought him closer to fulfilling the promise he made to protect Max. Through all the struggles and frustrations endured over those 47 weeks, Jake learned one crucial lesson: that love could triumph over bureaucracy, and that determination fueled by genuine bonds could lead to miracles even when hope seemed lost. As dawn broke on the horizon ahead, illuminating the road before him, Jake knew this journey was only just beginning. A new chapter awaited them both, filled with possibilities beyond imagination as they forged ahead together once more. Week 48 dawned with a feeling of restlessness gnawing at Jake. After nearly a year of waiting in silence, he had grown accustomed to the despair that weighed heavily on him, but a flicker of hope still lingered deep within his heart. It was that same flicker that drove him to keep writing appeals, despite the numbing routine of each week blending into the next without a shred of acknowledgement from the military system. On this particular morning, something felt different. Perhaps it was the crispness of the air or the way the sunlight streamed through his window, illuminating the dusty corners of his small room. As Jake prepared another letter to send off, he felt an unexpected surge of determination wash over him. He had spent countless hours pouring his emotions onto paper, detailing every moment shared with Max, every bond forged in chaos and companionship. It was time for one more appeal, perhaps even a final plea that could turn the tide. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes for a moment, and visualized Max, their adventures together, the way his tail would wag excitedly whenever Jake walked into a room, and how they would snuggle after long days filled with training. With renewed vigor, Jake began typing furiously. He recounted their journey, how Max had been injured on the battlefield, declared unfit for service, and how the decision to euthanize him felt like being stripped of a piece of himself. He stressed how Max wasn't just a dog, he was Jake's partner, deserving of every opportunity to live and heal. After sending the letter off, Jake attempted to distract himself throughout the day. He went through training exercises with fellow soldiers but found his mind drifting back to Max constantly. Every bark from another soldier's dog echoed in his heart like a reminder of what he was missing. Each moment felt like a reminder of everything he had lost and everything he was fighting for. He tried to engage in conversations with his comrades, but they often turned mundane. They lacked the depth of feeling he had experienced with Max. As days passed into nights, the weight of waiting grew more oppressive. Jake would often find himself sitting in silence, staring at the wall, thoughts swirling as he envisioned Max alone in his kennel, unsure of what lay ahead. The loneliness seeped into every crevice of his being, and doubt threatened to pull him under. What if no one ever read his letters? What if the system had become so bogged down that even this last desperate plea would go unnoticed? Then came an unexpected turn on that fateful day. While doing paperwork at his desk, Jake received a phone call from an unknown number. His heart raced as he picked up. "Sergeant Thompson?" a voice asked. "Yes?" Jake replied, breathless. "This is Major Harris from Military Animal Care," the voice continued. "We have an update regarding your military working dog, Max." Jake felt adrenaline surge through him. This could either be good news or another crushing disappointment. "What is it?" he managed to ask, trying to keep his voice steady. "There's been a review of your appeals," Major Harris stated, pausing for what felt like an eternity. "It turns out that due to a missed protocol window for euthanasia, Max is still alive." The words hit Jake like a tidal wave crashing against rocky shores. Relief flooded through him as tears pricked at the corners of his eyes. All those weeks of fighting, his persistent letters hadn't been in vain. "Are you serious?" he asked incredulously. "Yes, sir. We need you to come and retrieve him as soon as possible," said Major Harris. "We'll make arrangements for you to take him home." Overwhelmed with emotion, Jake barely remembered to thank Major Harris before hanging up the phone. He could hardly believe it. After all this time, Max was alive. The weight that had pressed down on him for months began to lift as exhilaration took its place. Jake quickly packed his belongings and prepared for the 14-hour drive ahead. He felt light, almost free, as he climbed into his vehicle. With each passing mile, excitement coursed through him like electricity. This was the moment he had fought for, the moment when hope transformed into reality. Driving through familiar landscapes felt surreal as anticipation grew inside him, a blend of anxiety and joy swirling together. He replayed memories in his mind, Max's playful bark echoing across fields, their silent communication in combat situations, and those quiet moments afterward where they shared comfort amid chaos. Those memories now fueled his resolve, pushing him closer to their reunion. As night fell and stars began to twinkle above, Jake navigated winding roads leading to the facility where Max awaited him. His heart raced with every mile. He could hardly think about anything else but seeing his loyal partner once again. He imagined what it would be like. Would Max recognize him right away? Would he be excited? Would he be scared? Finally arriving at the kennel brought all his hopes crashing back into focus as he stepped inside those doors once again, those same halls where he had first left Max so many weeks before. As Jake approached the back kennel area, he felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness bubbling inside him. And then there he was. Max lay quietly in his kennel, thin yet alive. The moment their eyes met was electric. It was as if time stopped altogether. Without hesitation, Max stood up slowly, tail wagging faintly as if unsure whether this was real or just another dream. In that instant, all doubts faded away. This was their moment. Together once more, ready to face whatever lay ahead, stronger than ever before. Jake could hardly contain his excitement as he prepared for the drive to the facility where Max was being held. Euphoria coursed through him, pushing aside the lethargy and despair that had taken root over those long, agonizing weeks. He had waited for this moment for so long. It felt surreal that the call confirming Max's survival had finally come. Without wasting a second, he hopped into his truck, the engine roaring to life as if mirroring his own racing heart. Jake knew that every moment counted. Each hour spent waiting was an hour too long. He set his sights on the road ahead, determined to cover the distance to Max as quickly as possible. He didn't hesitate. There would be no stops for rest or breaks on this journey. This was about getting to Max, and nothing else mattered. He knew how hard it must have been for Max to be without him all this time. As he pulled onto the highway, Jake felt an overwhelming sense of dedication wash over him, a commitment that bolstered him against fatigue and weariness. The early morning sun cast a warm glow across the landscape, illuminating highways that seemed to stretch endlessly before him. With each passing mile marker, Jake reflected on all they had been through together, the highs and lows of their military service, and the bond they had formed under duress. This drive became a pilgrimage, a testament to their shared history and unwavering loyalty. Time passed swiftly as Jake navigated winding roads and open stretches of highway. His mind raced with thoughts of their reunion. Would Max recognize him immediately? Would he bounce back into Jake's arms with joyful abandon? The anticipation built within his chest until it felt almost unbearable. But Jake welcomed it. He reveled in the thought of holding Max once again. Despite the urge to push forward relentlessly, he couldn't help but pull over occasionally when needed, to grab coffee or a quick snack, fueling his body just enough to keep going. But in those brief moments away from behind the wheel, thoughts of Max filled every corner of his mind. Each coffee sip felt like a countdown. He needed to get there fast. As night fell, a quiet stillness surrounded him. Headlights illuminated dark stretches of road where only shadows lingered on either side. The stars began twinkling overhead, reminding him of how far he had come and how close he was becoming with each mile traveled. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B. It was about reuniting with family, the one who had shared in battles both external and internal. Before long, fatigue began creeping into his bones, an ache settled in his shoulders after hours behind the wheel, but determination banished any lethargy lingering at bay. Every thought centered around Max motivated him, imagining seeing Max's familiar face, the soft fur and expressive eyes that seemed to understand everything Jake felt even without words spoken silently between them. Jake turned up the radio and let the music wash over him, while he focused on guiding himself along those winding routes with precision, a dance between man and machine destined toward reunion forged through love tempered by tribulations endured together alongside shared peaks rising higher than any precipice traversed separately ever could. As dawn broke on the horizon ahead, a gentle rise of golden light illuminating expansive skies, Jake's spirits soared as well, reinvigorated by hopeful visions conjured from powerful memories nested deep within echoing chambers echoing for what lay ahead, promising fulfillment at last taken while nearing threshold, cherished, always desired, worth waiting, tenaciously optioned before fulfilling glory, returning home, radiant existence now returning, reunitedly rejoicing souls. Finally arriving at the facility brought him face to face with reality once again. This was more than just another obligation fulfilled. It represented everything they'd fought for amid adversity. Every ounce invested propelled them here today, transformed, reborn, passionately alive, courageously awakened, confidently longing, revered, actively embraced, full circle concluded, near, promptly signified, joyous unity awaited, emerging, serene, calling meant, echoed, affirmatively yearning, words lived resolutely. Woven meaning deeply nestled beneath embraces, combined together, affectionate, bask, risen, firmly blended, sacred ties, infused, purpose, destiny, kindred, intertwined, promising each soul, cherished, valued, loved, profound reunions, bearing secrets, threads connecting, cherished fates alive, reuniting spirits alight. Brightened futures, worn smooth yet textured, rich, contrasting journeys traveled deeply, intimacy intact, cresting glories deserved, fully awaited, finally unfolded, promises fulfilled, pulled towards infinity. Finally arriving at the facility brought him face to face with reality once again. This was more than just another obligation fulfilled. It represented everything they'd fought for amid adversity. Every ounce invested propelled them here today, transformed, reborn, passionately alive, courageously awakened, confidently longing, revered, actively embraced, full circle concluded, near, promptly signified, joyous unity awaited, emerging, serene, calling meant, echoed, affirmatively yearning, words lived resolutely. Woven meaning deeply nestled beneath embraces, combined together, affectionate, bask, risen, firmly blended, sacred ties, infused, purpose, destiny, kindred, intertwined, promising each soul, cherished, valued, loved, profound reunions, bearing secrets, threads connecting, cherished fates alive, reuniting spirits alight. Brightened futures, worn smooth yet textured, rich, contrasting journeys traveled deeply, intimacy intact, cresting glories deserved, fully awaited, finally unfolded, promises fulfilled, pulled towards infinity. As he steeled himself outside those kennel doors again, welcomed warmth radiating safety assured, long-counted shadows lent comfort, illuminating heartfelt steps mirrored solidity, promise maintained unbroken, shining, walking brighter, revealing, stepping toward loving faces, cherished calls boldly approached, belonging, resilience flourishing, bursts greeted, boundless, free, embodied, sheltered, nurtured, bonds blessed, warm, glowing paths carried, treasured legacies, brightened ground marking victories woven. Reconnecting lives forever joined, celebrating beautifully, thriving beyond, evermore entwined destinies, painted kaleidoscope, enduring beauties depicted. And then, there he was. Max stood quietly in his kennel, looking thin but unmistakably alive. An electric thrill passed through Jake as their eyes met. The connection igniting, flames inside ignited once more, reaching across divides previously traversed, fortified, transcendently returning whole, reminding journey culminated, enlivened, bore fruits, ripening abundantly, never wanting, attaching, unconditional love possessed every beat, spanning endless depths, exchanged warmly, inviting, burgeoning reunion. As Jake stepped into the kennel area, his heart raced with anticipation. The sound of his footsteps echoed softly against the linoleum floor, but all he could hear were the emotional beats of his own heart pounding in his chest. He approached the row of kennels with a mix of excitement and fear, each step filled with the weight of what he had fought so hard for. When his eyes finally landed on Max, a rush of emotions washed over him. There was Max, lying quietly in a back kennel, thin, quiet, and looking more fragile than Jake had ever seen him. It felt as if time slowed down in that moment. Every detail became vivid, the way Max's ribs showed beneath his coat, the softness in his gaze that reflected uncertainty yet still held faint recognition. The sight struck Jake deeply, twisting in his stomach like an unsettling reality. "Max!" he called out softly, his voice trembling with emotion as he knelt beside the kennel. His dog lifted his head slowly, and for a moment, their eyes locked together. Everything else faded away as an overwhelming sense of connection wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Despite being thin and quiet, there was still life in those eyes, the same loyal spirit Jake had come to cherish through countless trials. As he unlocked the kennel door and swung it open gently, Jake felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "I'm here now," he whispered hoarsely, crouching down to be closer to Max's level. "You're safe." Jake reached out cautiously, aware of Max's frail state as he extended a hand to touch him. When their skin made contact, a wave of warmth flooded through him. This was no longer just a fight against bureaucracy. It was about reuniting with the friend who had always been by his side during their service together. The bond they shared transcended any protocol or rule that had sought to tear them apart. Max stood up slowly but surely. He didn't jump or bark like he used to. Instead, he approached with a quiet demeanor that tugged at Jake's heartstrings. There was no frantic excitement, just a gentle acknowledgement that they were finally together again after far too long apart. The joy Jake felt at this moment was tinged with sorrow for what Max had endured during their separation. "Look at you," Jake murmured as he took in Max's appearance once more. The worn-down frame and subdued energy contrasted starkly with memories of a once-spirited dog who bounded alongside him without hesitation or fear. "You've been so brave." Max leaned into Jake's touch, nudging against his hand as if seeking comfort from his presence, a familiar reassurance after weeks spent alone in the kennel's confines. It felt surreal to finally be face to face again after months of longing and worry over everything that might have happened. "I miss you so much," Jake said softly, feeling tears slip down his cheeks unbidden as emotions surged within him. He wrapped his arms around Max gently, careful not to squeeze too tightly against the fragile frame before him. This was their moment. Nothing else mattered now. Max let out a soft whimper that seemed to echo Jake's own feelings perfectly, relief mixed with joy mingling together harmoniously within shared silence resonating deep inside them both. In that embrace lay everything they had experienced. Battles fought side by side and unconditional love poured forth freely, soaring across perceived limitations built over those hopeless 47 weeks spent apart. Time melted away again as they remained entwined amidst simple words spoken without need, drifted effortlessly. A language woven intricately between handler and canine, united beyond voice, binding truths cherished forever, stronger than protocol sought destruction. Togetherness renewed, vividly awakened, inherently invoked vibrant assurance, promising futures, infused, freshly breathed new life, resonating, cultivating memories, richly embraced, forever solidifying, steadfastly rooted warmth, sparking destinies intertwined, love prevailing endlessly. After several moments lost within each other's embrace came realization. They needed proper care after enduring such hard conditions faced together. With determination rippling through him, fueled now by their reunion, forged dynamically anew, full upon shared strength, Jake carefully guided Max out from within the confining walls surrounding them, offering liberation once more, paving ways, freely embracing infinite realms, pulling forth unyielded, joyously brightened, warmly honoring promises secured across timeless expanse, beckoning home, rediscovered, safely embodied, born incandescent warmth, brushing spirits renewed, inventively inviting, nurturing. Openness promising, secure, anchored cocoon, enveloping, tethered, resounding, resolve, pulsating, vibrantly nourishing, bending toward anticipated journeys, sprawling upon horizons illuminated, pristine, reaching thresholds, brimming vast landscapes, generously shared, traversing, faithfully reiterating, cherished, ons cultivated, echoing, roundly coupled, culminating, heartfelt explorations, traveled, rich encounters, fascinating, discovering intimately. With determination rippling through him, fueled now by their reunion, forged dynamically anew, full upon shared strength, Jake carefully guided Max out from within the confining walls surrounding them, offering liberation once more, paving ways, freely embracing infinite realms, pulling forth unyielded, joyously brightened, warmly honoring promises secured across timeless expanse, beckoning home, rediscovered, safely embodied, born incandescent warmth, brushing spirits renewed, inventively inviting, nurturing. Openness promising, secure, anchored cocoon, enveloping, tethered, resounding, resolve, pulsating, vibrantly nourishing, bending toward anticipated journeys, sprawling upon horizons illuminated, pristine, reaching thresholds, brimming vast landscapes, generously shared, traversing, faithfully reiterating, cherished, ons cultivated, echoing, roundly coupled, culminating, heartfelt explorations, traveled, rich encounters, fascinating, discovering intimately. Through hallways transported, vibrantly welcoming strides, igniting, soaring aspirations, both basking deeply, full circle, arriving assuredly among radiant warmth, relishing future journeys, forever devoted souls, breathing joyfully alive, blessedly gifted, brightly touching destinies, nurtured, lovingly igniting, clarity emanated, fresh, returning hearts, thriving, indestructibly intertwined, illuminating, timeless legacies engraved, eternally finest, brightest. As Jake knelt in front of Max's kennel, the world around him faded into the background. The sound of distant barking and the faint smell of cleaning supplies were insignificant compared to the overwhelming emotions swirling within him. This was it, the moment he had fought so hard for, the culmination of 48 weeks filled with hope, despair, and unyielding determination. Jake's heart raced as he locked eyes with Max. The dog lay quietly in the corner, his thin frame a stark reminder of the hardships he had endured during their separation. But despite his frail appearance, there was still a flicker of life in Max's eyes, a spark that ignited Jake's spirit and reaffirmed their connection. "Max," Jake whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. He felt vulnerable but hopeful, kneeling down to get closer to his partner. "It's me." Slowly, Max lifted his head, and in that moment, something magical occurred. Without hesitation, he stood up, thin but resolute, and took a few cautious steps toward Jake. There was no frantic excitement or barking. Instead, it was a quiet acknowledgement of their bond, an unspoken recognition that transcended words. Jake felt tears pricking at the corners of his eyes as he watched Max approach him with gentle trust. It was as if time had frozen around them. Everything else melted away until only this moment existed, their reunion after so much uncertainty and pain. The love they shared surged forth, filling the space between them as if they were connected by an invisible thread woven from loyalty and understanding. "Look at you," Jake murmured, choking back sobs as he took in Max's condition. "You've been so brave." His heart ached seeing how thin Max had become. But he also felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. His best friend was alive. Reaching through the bars of the kennel, Jake extended his hand to touch Max's muzzle gently. The warmth radiating from Max's body sent a wave of comfort through him, a reminder that they were together again. As their skin made contact, it felt like a spark igniting all the hopes Jake had held on to throughout this journey. Max leaned into Jake's touch, nudging against his hand as if seeking reassurance from the familiar presence he had missed so dearly. The dog's quiet demeanor tugged at Jake's heartstrings. There was no need for exuberant displays of affection. This simple gesture spoke volumes about their deep bond forged through countless trials. "I miss you so much," Jake whispered softly, wrapping his arms around Max carefully to avoid hurting him. The embrace felt surreal. It was as if they had both been holding their breaths for too long, and could finally exhale together. In that moment, every struggle they had faced apart faded into the background. All those letters written in desperation and countless nights spent worrying about Max's fate transformed into this beautiful reunion, a testament to their unwavering loyalty to one another. Max let out a soft whimper that echoed Jake's own feelings, relief mingled with joy enveloping them both in an embrace that transcended words spoken aloud. What mattered most was that they were together again. Nothing else mattered anymore. After a few moments lost in each other's presence, reality crept back into focus. Jake knew they needed to leave the confines of the kennel behind. Now that they were reunited, it was time to ensure Max received the care and attention he deserved after such a long ordeal. He gently guided Max out of the kennel door and into the bright light of day that awaited them outside, an expanse that promised renewal and freedom. Together they walked toward the exit, side by side once again, two warriors united after traversing through trials that would have broken lesser bonds. The sunlight poured over them warmly as they stepped outside, illuminating their path forward into a world filled with endless possibilities. Jake paused for a moment to take in the sight of Max standing beside him, a symbol of resilience and strength. Though they had endured hardships separately, now they were ready to face whatever lay ahead together as partners committed to one another. The journey had been long and arduous, but every hardship had led them back to this moment, to reclaim what was rightfully theirs, each other. As they stepped into the sunlit world beyond the facility walls, Jake couldn't help but smile through tears of joy streaming down his cheeks. Everything felt right once more. Every ounce of love shared during their time together surged back into existence like a heartbeat reigniting life within them both. With renewed purpose and unwavering devotion guiding them forward, Jake and Max ventured onward hand in paw toward whatever adventures awaited them, ready to face challenges together once more. As Jake and Max stepped out of the facility and into the warmth of the morning sun, a profound sense of relief washed over them. This moment was more than just a reunion. It was a testament to the strength of their bond, forged through shared experiences and challenges that only they could understand. The struggles they faced, both on the battlefield and in the bureaucratic fight for Max's life, had deepened their connection in ways that Jake had never fully comprehended until now. Walking side by side, Jake glanced down at Max, who looked up at him with an expression that seemed to say, "I knew you would come." Despite the thinness of his frame, there was a spark in Max's eyes that radiated loyalty and love. It was as if they were communicating without words, sharing a silent vow to always be there for one another, no matter what obstacles lay ahead. Jake reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. He remembered the fear and uncertainty he felt during those long weeks of waiting for answers. The despair that threatened to consume him when he thought of losing Max lingered like a dark cloud overhead, yet he had never given up hope. Each appeal he had written was fueled by love, the kind of love that goes beyond companionship. It was loyalty forged in the fires of battle and sealed with moments of quiet understanding. Now, as they moved forward together, Jake felt a profound appreciation for the resilience they both exhibited. Max had endured so much during their time apart. He had faced loneliness and uncertainty in that kennel, yet here he was, standing strong beside Jake once more. That resilience mirrored Jake's own determination throughout their separation. The fight against the bureaucracy that sought to take Max away had been grueling, but it was worth every ounce of effort. The bond between military working dogs and their handlers is unique, built on trust and mutual respect developed through countless trials. For Jake, this bond was not just about Max being a working dog. It was about friendship, a friendship that had saved him more than once on the battlefield. Max had been his protector, his confidant, and now he was back again to fulfill those roles. As they walked toward the truck, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose blossom within him. Their journey together wasn't just about survival. It was about living fully and embracing every moment. With each step, he promised himself to make up for lost time, to ensure that Max would never feel abandoned or alone again. Reaching the truck, Jake opened the door and helped Max inside gently. As Max settled into his seat, he looked around curiously, taking in the familiar scents and sounds. It felt like a new beginning for both of them, a chance to heal together and create new memories. The drive back home felt different this time, filled with excitement and possibility rather than anxiety. Jake turned up the radio, letting music fill the air as he drove along winding roads lined with trees bursting with early spring blooms. He glanced over at Max, who rested quietly with his head resting against the window, ears flapping in the breeze. Every so often, Max would glance back at Jake as if to check in, reaffirming their companionship without needing words. As they traveled further from the facility, Jake considered all they had overcome together. Each challenge faced was a stepping stone leading them to this moment, their reunion symbolizing victory over adversity. He thought about how important it is to fight for those we love, to advocate fiercely when it matters most, and how that love can transcend barriers that seem insurmountable. With every passing mile, Jake felt lighter. The burdens of the past slowly evaporated under the warmth of their reunion. He envisioned all the adventures still ahead, hiking in the mountains, running freely in open fields, and perhaps even just relaxing together at home with nothing but peace surrounding them. When they finally arrived at home, the sun hung low on the horizon, casting a golden glow across everything. Jake opened the door for Max once again, who hopped out eagerly as if recognizing this place as their sanctuary, a space where they could be themselves without fear or obligation. As they stood together on the porch, basking in the evening light, Jake felt an overwhelming gratitude wash over him once more. He knelt down beside Max and gently scratched behind his ears, the familiar gesture eliciting a contented sigh from his canine companion. "Welcome home," Jake whispered softly, unable to contain his smile. In that moment of pure joy and comfort, he realized that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, two loyal friends bound by love and resilience ready to embrace whatever came next on their journey side by side. In reflecting on their reunion, one marked by unspoken connections and unwavering loyalty, Jake knew that their story wasn't just about survival. It was about love conquering all odds. And as they stood together under the vastening sky painted in hues of orange and pink signaling day's end, he felt an inner peace knowing this bond would endure forevermore.